Hello, my name is Woody. This is Change in the House of Pods, a podcast about Deftones. And today, my guests are Dua, Salim, and Sheel of Bad Rabbits. That fantastic song is In Lovin' Plane Crashes from their latest album, 2023's Garden of Eden. It is outstanding, and I am extremely stoked to share this conversation with you today. It's a conversation that's been in the works for a long time. I first reached out to Bad Rabbits on March 21st, 2021, and they got back to me on that very same day. We exchanged messages regularly. They were enthusiastic about talking about Deftones, and then, well, you know, life happens. But we finally spoke right after their album came out, and I am not overstating this when I tell you this conversation was worth the wait. Sheel, who plays drums, Salim plays guitar, and Dua sings. These guys were so fun to talk to. This conversation is going to fly by, and you're going to hear the incredible story of their time in studio with Chino and the godfather of New Jack himself, Teddy Riley. Imagine that. I mean, man, being in studio with Teddy Riley and Chino Moreno at the same time? What? Like I said, incredible. As is Bad Rabbit's cover of Sextape, which is what put me onto them in the first place. And you're going to hear some really insightful conversation about songwriting, Deftones' influence on Bad Rabbits, and a whole lot more. This is really as good as it gets for me. Good conversation with good people who are not afraid to have some fun. This is Bad Rabbits on Change in the House of Pods.
That song actually was started off a sample, some synth sample that I found. Then I sent it over to B. Lewis. So the synth sample really stood out to me because it just had this sort of like greasy, like 90s or like late 80s, early 90s, sort of like R&B, almost funk, even like 70s funk vibe to it.
Yeah.
And then the meter, the tempo of the sample, I was like, damn, we can make this shit like kind of heavy and like hit a little bit harder. So took the sample, sort of like reworked the sample, sent it to B. Lewis along with a drum stem that I recorded. And then we sort of built it from there. But I think the idea behind that was to try to capture our sort of live band sound with, or just, I guess like our R&B and funk side, but like really try to find a place where it feels like heavy. And so the end of the song is really where it kind of goes ballistic, and it's like, oh shit, this band is kind of heavy, or their influences are a little bit wild, you know? So I don't know, it's definitely my favorite song on the album. It was the last minute addition. I just felt like we had this one track that was missing, and that was the one. And when we did it, we were all like, yo, like this is the one. Like when we play it live, or we rehearsed it for our live show, we haven't played it live yet. It's definitely the one that makes us feel like the most excited about. So I'm glad you gravitated towards that one.
Yeah, it's really great. It's really great. I love the reference that you made to it being like a funk song, because it jams like a funk song. And not to jump ahead too far to like the Deftones stuff, but there is something about the pocket, and then the way the guitars like rock with the pocket, that I feel like is often overlooked in Deftones or not talked about enough. Obviously Chino's magical, and but it's there's, you know, Steph has these riffs, but it's the way that Steph and Abe rock together. I feel like that is sort of instrumental, really critical to the way that they do things. Salim, when you get music like this, when you get this sample, when you get the drums, like where do you go? Where do you go with that as a guitarist? How do you approach that?
Well, this song in particular, it's interesting because when we did the actual other 95% of the record, it was me, Sheel, and Dua. I'm sorry, me, Sheel, and Brad, the producer, just in the studio all weekend, just cooking up a bunch of songs. And then Dua went out with Brad and recorded all the parts. So like this, and then we kind of just over time, like either cut parts or added parts. So Sheel had sent me the initial stem, or basically the initial demo of In Love and Plane Crashes. And I live in Nashville now, so I kind of just took the time to, right, let me just demo some parts, but also knowing that Dua hadn't laid any vocals on and it hadn't really been written to or anything vocally. So the approach for us is to kind of always stay out of the way, at least as a guitar player, to add something that gives it the groove, makes it feel like Bad Rabbits. Because when we essentially get a demo, it's, it has somebody's interpretation of what Bad Rabbits should sound like, or kind of like, hey, this will work for that. So for me, it was just going through a rack of guitars and just different tones to try to find the one. And I usually just will play along with the record and try to find the pocket, or play along to a part that essentially will accent what the groove is without actually getting in the way and leaving space for the vocals. So this song in particular, we actually changed the pitch a little bit. So I had to go back in and play the guitars, and it kind of gave it this like natural feel because I had to tune down everything down a half step. So it just naturally has this like different element and feel than most of the Bad Rabbit songs have ever had, to be fair, because most of the stuff we play is either standard or drop D tuning. So this one just, I think naturally probably has more like that early Deftones feel, just by proxy of the tuning of it, and just the way, to your point, that it's basically just drums, bass, and guitar that kind of carry the groove and just leave the space for the vocals to kind of cook, which was the intent.
Yeah, when I first heard Salim's guitar parts on it, it's like the song opens up and it's got this 90s sitcom vibe. And it's just kind of like, I don't know, it puts me in like, it takes me back to when I like grew up watching like Family Matters and like Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. And there's this lead line that Salim does that was actually in the chorus that matches the guitar, the vocal part. We moved that to the intro because it was just kind of like it just fit the intro and it gave that sort of 90s sitcom vibe. But it I don't know. I feel like Salim brought like a lot of grease to the song. It was like he made it a lot dirtier sounding, and like because so the thing I love about Salim's guitar playing is that he's like through and through like a rhythm guitar player. It's almost like he's a bass player playing guitar, but he's got this like he's got the chops to play like really tasteful lead lines too. So I feel like he was able to bring those two elements of his style to the song. And in the past, I feel
Another
like,
thing I just wanted to comment on.
oh shit,
Oh shit! Look at him! Look at him! Look at him! Look at him!
I didn't even know Dude was there.
Oh, real funny, yeah, the camouflage. No, but another thing I wanted to comment on, I wanted to piggyback off of what she was saying with Salim's style. When me and Salim met, I noticed that he had this like one rhythmic style, but also a tinge of jazz in him. A lot of jazz actually that came out of him too as well. That mixed with the rock, and he always finds a way to add his flavor to every last track. And this track in general, like when I remember when he set the guitars, I literally creamed myself. I was I was gassed. I remember setting up. Listen, shut up. Pause. I should have paused.
Yeah,
I wasn't even laughing at that.
It is what it is.
Salim's style is like
Hey,
I
yo.
feel like Salim's style is like Philadelphia Experiment meets Deftones.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
I feel like those are like two.
Word.
Those are like two at like two different ends of I guess like the musical.
I might be telling on
spectrum of
myself, but I'm not
influences.
really familiar with Philadelphia Experiment. Educate
It was
me.
like it was a weird project, not a weird project. It was Robert Glasper, Questlove, and I think a bass player. The bass just did like a jazz record, but I think
Bass player for
amongst
Soul Life.
No, it was somebody else. It was, I just think amongst the three of us, very kind of the homies that say all that stuff because it's the approach of, I'll never forget, like when we did the Stick Up Kids record, the producer Jason Michael kind of gave me this like approach to playing guitar that kind of stuck with me from like the day that he said it. Was like, why do most people gravitate towards Thriller as like the greatest Michael Jackson record, whatever, and it's because every instrument is a hook. So like if you think about like all the parts on the record, like if you have somebody sing Billie Jean, you could sing every instrument in that song and everybody knows what song you're talking about. It could be the dun, dun, the drum beat, the bass line, the guitar lick,
Totally.
or the actual like lyrics. So you like, that's how the approach to writing a record is. So it kind of removes like the ego of like, well, let me just get it all on the record so people know I'm playing on this shit. It's like, how do you make a part that when it's played, it fits the whole puzzle? But also, if somebody can't describe the song, it's like, yo, what's that song with them? Oh, damn, what's the guitar part? Boom, boom, dun, dun, dun. It's like very
Word.
simple, but you know what it is. And I think everybody, at least to me, that's the approach and kind of what has stuck out to me from like literally since we recorded Stick Up Kids. Like, how do you write a part that's a hook that's on the guitar when you have a band where it's very pop driven, forward vocals and stuff like that? We're trying to be a pop band disguised in like an R&B beatdown band. You know what I'm saying? So like, how do you fit that format
Yeah.
without ODing on the record or being boring about it? So I think that's just been my approach from like the jump.
Can I just tell you how enlightening that is? Because I have like over the course of my like research and really like diving deep into Deftones and trying to discover more and learn about more, one of the things that has stood out to me about what I think makes them successful songwriters is their ability to never do too much, to edit themselves, to stay out of the way, like you were saying, to like make room. And that seems really hard to me, like to wrap my head around, like, you know, just being in service of the song. But when you put it in that way, when you're like, all right, well, my job is to do this, to make every instrument a hook or to make every part, like, now you have a goal in mind. Now you have like a job. This is what you're supposed to do. That's
Yeah,
really, really dope.
I think Deftones. I think all of Abe's drum parts are hooks. I feel
100%.
like the way he opens up around the fur, the way he opens up Digital Bath, it's like so creative and it's so hooky where like there's plenty of drummers I know, including myself, that will play his beats for sound check or drop like the in the
Yo,
middle of a set and everybody
that's
knows what it is, you know?
that's Sheel. That Sheel used to do that all the time on tour.
Word.
All the
But
time.
but my point is that like I feel I feel like he's not this drummer that's like playing with like crazy chops. He's not on like Instagram like showing off his drum shop chops. He's just like he's an incredible role player in the band, and I feel like all Deftones is that, and that's why that makes him so special. Is that there's not one particular person in that band that's a standout or is like the best one in the band. Oh, like Deftones because of this only this one person. Each one of them has their own sort of like unique character, and if you know Deftones, you know each member of Deftones and
100%.
what they bring to the table. And I feel like Bad Rabbits has kind of always been that as well. We've sort of like followed that ideal is I don't think there's ever been like one standout person. Obviously, like Do is the front man, but I feel like there's certain people that I mean, we have a lot of musicians that are supporters of ours and friends of ours, and I feel like they sort of like echo that sentiment towards us, where like like they gravitate towards certain members of the band, which is cool.
It's really, I think this one of the special parts about Deftones and you guys in particular, as this we're talking about it here, because like with a lot of bands, you could take the vocalist out and it's just a whole different band. It's just you
Right.
change the name, whatever. But with those core members, with you guys and your core members, you're going to change the band, right? You're going to change the whole
Exactly.
band, which is
Right.
like it's unique. It's not it's not everybody. You can't say that about it. I feel like it's just the opposite.
You can't replace Sheel. You can't replace Salim. You damn sure can't replace me. Yeah, even if like, you know, my nephews turn out to sound like me and want to join, it won't happen. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
that's the beauty. That's the beauty of this band. Like, this band dies with us.
word.
You know, it's over when we're over.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Inshallah. But
It's
like,
crazy because, like, I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
It's crazy when you see a band like the Deftones. It's like you see three people of different colors, backgrounds, and whatnot, where we were able to kind of come together with bands like Deftones and Glassjaw and all these bands that essentially had just a little bit of just. The first time hearing Deftones is like, oh, there's some black shit in this. That there's just like a pocket or a groove in the element that made it like, okay, this is not just like your straight four to the floor rock. There's a little bit of pocket and swing to it, and gravitating towards it. Like we've had the opportunity to meet up and talk to the homies here and there, like over the course of our career, which has been just a blessing. But at the same time, be able to tell them like, yo, you guys changed my life. Because at the time, there was nobody of color doing anything in rock music. We got like black people skateboarding and doing the things that we did growing up. What we did wasn't a thing. And like you get the interactive DVDs and shit like back in the day. And there was a video with them with Bishop the Don Juan, like on one of their videos. I'm like, oh shit, this is like, okay, this is like the right of
Can I just
passage.
show you who's sitting on my desk?
Yeah,
Sitting on my desk. You see his green ass Cadillac too? That's how I saw him. I was like, oh, that's the Don when he pulled up. I was with my family on Rodeo Drive. Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
Well, yeah, I mean, Deftones they're rooted in funk. Like when we hang out with them, like when they come to town, they have a PA system in their backstage, their green room area. They're bumping like G-Funk. Yeah, like Boogie, G-Funk, like Prince.
I remember when I was living in Utah and they played out in Utah, and it was like the only time that I actually had where it was just me, not the rest of the band, because, you know, at that point we were all in Massachusetts, but I was living in Utah. I remember going backstage and hanging out behind the bus or in front of the bus, and they had their little tent out and everything. And I'm listening to Anita Baker. I'm hearing Anita Baker. I'm hearing like just wild different types of black music. And Chino was just like he's always had his ear to that. You know what I'm saying? And it was like, it makes sense. It makes sense when I hear him sing. When I hear him sing, it makes sense because it's like he's channeling his falsetto. He's finding ways to like expand his voice, and he's inspired by it. And
speak to that a little bit more, because oftentimes we talk about him and we talk about his influences being Robert Smith or, you know, Morrissey.
But there are black artists in there. I mean, I remember talking to him about like R&B at that time. I can't remember like the exact conversation because that was like 10 years ago almost.
Word.
But like it was such a cool experience to know that he was like into all of this type of stuff. And it just kind of like, it kind of made sense. It clicked to me. I was like, yeah, that's why you are this cool. That's why you sound this dope. It's because you took or were inspired by, rather, a lot of elements of black music, black artists, black singers that you bring to the table.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's like, I'm not trying to like, you know, deride, but like he's
and this is the place for it.
Yeah, you're right. No, sorry.
Oh, you're wild. But that's so dope. That's so dope. I love that because every time I ask about how people got into Deftones or you know, what other music they were listening to when they listened to Deftones, or it's most often from the rock angle. And I'm sort of unique in that I came from the rap angle. Like in my house when I was little, it was 80s R&B. Like my mom was playing Anita Baker, for example. And then being an 80s baby, like, I think you know where I'm going. New Jack Swing was perhaps my favorite era of music, period. So it was, and Abe, like we say, is like he's got such a pocket in the swing, and the thing, it's such a hip hop like feel to every drum beat, every Abe beat is just I want to rap on it, you know what I mean? Like, but um, I don't think anybody has ever actually like suggested that has been influential in their music and in their style. So I think that's really dope. All right, so I
Well,
gotta ask. Oh, go
it
ahead.
definitely is because when we were in the studio with Teddy Riley, who
Yes,
created New
bro.
Jack Swing,
Like
it was like,
blow my mind. Like blow my mind. Like perhaps two of my favorite musicians. Period. You
yo,
had them
man,
in the same room, bro.
it was like a slam dunk, like on paper, you know, like
On
when it
paper,
came to
on paper,
like
on
when
paper, that
we,
shit was dope. It looked
yeah,
crazy.
I mean, it looks
when I,
crazy. It sounds kind of crazy though. It does because I don't associate Chino especially with like being an '80s like an
'90s
R&B.
R&B.
Yeah,
so yeah, so I knew one of his old, I think Team Sleep old manager. I think he would manage Team Sleep, or maybe he was just friends with Chino. Um, one of our friends, Sean Carano, he had worked with Chino on some projects in the past, and he was friends of ours. And I guess Chino was a fan of my old metal band, and Sean had played him. He's like, "Hey, you're a fan of this band? Check out the drummer's new project." And he played in Bad Rabbits and in their office or whatever. And I was like, yo, we're actually like in LA for the next month or so, and it would be awesome to get Chino to come down. And I was just like throwing a Hail Mary there. And
for sure, for sure.
and then he just like CC'd me on an email with Chino, and Chino was just like, yo, what time? Say less. Where are you guys at? And I just told him like one of the days we're in the studio, and like I didn't heard from him at all during the day. Like I didn't have his phone number, just had his email address and just the mutual connection. And so I gave him the address, gave him the time that we were going to be at, and he just shows up with his guitar, like out of nowhere. And we were just like, yo, like we have Teddy Riley here, like one of our producer idols, and then Chino from Deftones,
Yeah,
another one of our massive
it was
influences. And
crazy
then,
because Sheil was like Sheil was more calm about shit, where I was literally walking in and out of the studio trying to like catch him before, like I wanted to meet him first before, and she was just always trying to check me to just be come down, come. He's coming.
Be cool, dog. Be
He was
cool.
Be
like,
cool, man. Be cool. Be
Sheil was the
easy, be
coolest.
easy.
Sheil was the chillest one. I'm sitting there like
yeah, I
fan.
mean, he made when he walked in, like, so we had already known Teddy because we'd been in the studio with him for a while. But
Yeah.
when Chino walked
Which is
in,
also just surreal. Like, let me just throw that in. Let's not
yeah,
undersell the like. I know this is a Deftones podcast, but that man invented an entire genre of music. That's
I know
Teddy
it's
Riley,
crazy.
bro. That's Teddy
It's
Riley.
Crazy.
crazy. Yeah,
Anyways,
man.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
It was an experience, man. And then I mean Chino just made it the whole situation so comfortable. He was just like, yo, like essentially like I'm one of you guys. We sat down, we talked to him for like hours. Like I was able to do playthroughs with him of Digital Bath and like we rocked Deftones songs together.
Yeah,
It
dog.
was like
That shit was
crazy, man.
crazy to me. That shit was crazy to me because like honestly, it could have been time when we could have wrote something, but just to have that moment and
Yeah.
like I'm pretty
And
sure
that shit's all documented
yeah,
too.
it's
There's
all
like
documented. And
every moment in the studio when Chino was in there is on. I have a hard drive of all that shit. At some point, we want to put into some sort of documentary style like output, but it just there actually. So we sat down with him and we talked to him for like an hour. That's the only part in the hard drive that doesn't have audio. For some reason, the audio isn't there for that. So like, I don't know if there's someone that's listening that can like
Dua did not know this
help us like,
information. Dua did not know this information.
yeah, but everything
I think
else
I
was
think
in
this
there.
nigga kept it from us for all this time because he didn't
Well, so
want us.
no, so I had to get Chris Laughter, who was there. He mailed like physically mailed the hard drive to me, and then I ended up uploading it to a Dropbox, and it's been sitting there. And we actually sent it to one of our friends, Mike Higgs, and he had started chopping it up and like trying to create a bit of a documentary. But I think there's just some like red tape around trying to get clearance from like all the parties involved, where it was just almost like too much resistance there where I was
Yeah.
just like, let's put this aside for now. And
That whole
but yeah,
experience.
that experience was next level, man. It was like
Yeah,
it was incredible. Unfortunately, like couldn't get Chino recorded his guitar,
but you
um,
didn't sing.
but we couldn't get him to finish the vocals on it. The track just is sort of collecting dust as like a.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's
yeah,
like
it's
an
just
Needs
one of those
time with
eternal,
the
songs.
it's an
track, is my
eternal
opinion.
B side. It's an eternal B side.
Yeah,
It's
but if
some,
people want to hear his guitar on it, like
yeah,
he's on there. Yeah.
yeah. His guitar's on there,
He
but
helped write the hook too, the melody. I remember
yeah,
he was just like, da get up, da
yeah, yeah.
get up. So
He
he
was
was like mumbling the melody and then ended up
Wow.
writing some lyrics to
I
it.
ended
But
up
yeah, it was very
stinking up the
collaborative.
lyrics. But I mean, at the end of the
You said
day,
what? You ended up stinking up
I
the
ended up
lyrics?
stinking it. I stunk the whole thing. But
Hmm.
in my opinion, I mean, other people could think differently. But with him, I wanted to pull out this like angelic type of, or like try to match him, and it didn't work. But for me, it was like I was discouraged about that. But for me, it was a moment because to see, and I'm put this out there. I'm put my business out there. Me and Sheel at that point, like I was already having issues with recording and writing and all this stuff, being discouraged, and me and Sheel would butt heads. But when me and him actually got together in the studio, it was like everything changed. The brotherhood came back, and all this other like greatness evolved around it. So it was like the moments that we had solidified my faith in music, my faith in the band, my faith in people, right? So I just took that whole experience as a placeholder for like, remember this because this is why you're doing it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So yeah, I didn't mean to make it like all personal, but like, that's
Oh, but that's tremendous. That's I feel like the beautiful thing about um this band that it's one of the things that makes them so much fun to talk about is that um the music has a way of, okay, for example, I mean, I was at Dia de los Deftones this weekend,
Oh hell yeah!
and as you're walking around,
videos from that shit.
it was amazing, and it is. I've been to all four of them. Like it's my Super Bowl.
Wow,
I go every year. Like I have to. I need it. It's for my
incredible.
soul. I needed to cleanse my spirit. You know what I mean? But when you walk around that park and you see people of every age, race,
Yeah,
gender, like everybody who
hell
identifies
yeah.
in every kind of way. I mean, always there's going to be some, old black t-shirt guy who's just like, metal, play 7 words or whatever. But like 99% of the people who love this band, like you can't be a bigot and love this band. You can't be somebody who
Yep.
doesn't like want to come together and experience the magic of music. Like, let's just get together and get down and have a good time. And
Yep.
I love that you had that experience in the studio. Forget that you had if the conversation you had wasn't recorded, so be it. You got that moment.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. I know.
It's crazy
Yeah, there's such
because
a.
there's
I think. Yeah, they're. Yeah, go ahead, Celine.
no, you got it. Like I can.
I was just saying that they're just a fun band. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
they make serious and like heavy music, but it has this like sultry vibe. But at the end of the day, they're like laughing at each other on stage and they're like smiling, having they're like, I don't know, they're just clowning on each other and they're like that off stage too. Like when they come to Boston, try to like go grab some seafood with them and then we'll like hit a bar. Usually it's mainly with like Frank and Abe because they seem to just want to like explore a little bit in the cities when they go. And so I remember just like sitting down with them and I'm like, man, these guys are our friends now. And I don't think we've quite like fanboyed out to them. Like
I
I'm sure
have.
they know that they're big influences on us, but I think I think we just vibe on a friendship level with them too. Like they're like big brothers to us. Abe will text me, I'll text him, I'll send him pictures of my son. It's like I don't know, it's just I feel like they're kind of like musical family at this point, which is insane to say, but I'm not sure how they feel, but that's
It,
how
it
we
is
feel.
it is really crazy. Abe likes my posts. Like he'll always like whenever I say something to him in a DM, he'll respond, which is just crazy. Like Sheel said, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah, and we also share the same publicist too in the UK, Emma, and she's been like
Shout
a
out to Emma.
huge. Yeah, shout out Emma. She's been like incredible part of our band's evolution, and she's like sort of like the glue that holds our relationship with the Deftones together, in some sort of capacity, you know. And I think,
Relationships with a lot of things.
yeah, no, she's been an incredible supporter of our band, and so yeah, but she helped break the Deftones in the UK, you know, like she helped break Linkin Park, um, Taking Back Sunday. So she's a legend, and I think just being in that company is like incredible blessing to all of us.
It's kind of crazy because bands like the Deftones have given like a blueprint to longevity, which is like one
Hell
of these
yeah,
crazy things where it's like if you think about the evolution of that band, even just from like the guitar standpoint, it's like just each record has more strings and just them experimenting with more sounds and whatnot. And obviously having a ton of adversity with, Chi passing and all those things. And then just admittedly speaking, I'm like, there was a point where the Deftones couldn't do any wrong to me. They put out a record. I'm like, okay, there's obviously records that gravitate towards more of them. In Diamond's case, I'm like, oh, these niggas is back. Let's go. You could
yeah,
see
exactly,
like the
yeah,
evolution
yeah.
of like, okay, you could tell that they had. I feel like there was a time internally in the band where they were like kind of to our a very similar trajectory to our band. We're just like, oh, the creativity is gone. It just seems like we're going through the motions of what's happening, and then they just kind of got to they just found that spark, and just all of a sudden became fun again. And you get a record like Diamond Eyes, where it's just like, holy shit, this is on some other shit. They're back and they're writing. You could just, whether it's actually true or not, I never had the opportunity to be like, hey, explain this to me. But it just seemed like there was a version of the band that had overcome the adversity, the grief, or whatever, whether it was
Mm.
internal turmoil, business turmoil, whatever it may have been. You could tell when, at least for me, having Diamond Eyes come out and admittedly seeing some of the shows, and I'm like, oh, this wasn't the greatest show, but it's just, to me, it's a Deftones show. But then I'll never forget, they came to the House of Blues in Boston and they played Diamond House. It's like, holy fuck, these niggas is back.
Yeah,
Let's go.
I remember that.
And
Weren't we standing like right behind front of house, and we were like,
yeah, just the
yo, I had like
heaviest shit.
chills, man. And they intro when they play that live, they play it like twice as slow, so it's like dun,
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 dun, dun,
dun, dun, dun.
oh, it's so heavy.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
so
man.
sick. Yeah, they were on fire. And then you covered them like right away. Like it was
Mhm.
2012 when you guys put out the sex tape cover, right? I mean, it was well, not when you put it
Yeah.
out, but when you recorded or when it hit the internet. Tell me about the origin, or how did that come along? Who was like, yo, let's do the sex tape cover.
So we had been when Diamond Eyes came out. A couple of members of our bands that were previously in the band, they had never really like heard Deftones before. Um, they heard of them, but I don't think they were like proper fans. And then when Diamond Eyes came out, I'll never forget. Like I forget what tour we were on, but for that whole tour, that album was on loop, and so every member of the band had their favorite song. And I think when we were doing this cover series, I had suggested Sextape and Deftones, and at this point like we didn't um, haven't really like totally developed a relationship with them, and so it wasn't that it felt like okay, to do that. Like we weren't totally fanboying on like our friends.
Word.
So it yeah, and we just got in the room and just it felt right. It was like damn, like, and I think the reason being is because like they bring such a amount of grease to rock music, and I feel like we bring sort of like an amount of rock to funk music. And so um, I felt like it was just an easy sort of like pick for us as far as a song. And we started playing it, like it all came naturally, and like we didn't play it to like a metronome or a click track. We played it all live in the room, and it just worked out. But yeah, I think that sort of explains how it goes. But I don't know if you guys have any other sort of perspective on it.
I mean, if I may, do a sang the fuck out of it.
Oh yeah, you killed that shit.
If I
Absolutely
may,
killed it.
sang the shit out of that song, bro. Like, I'm getting goosebumps now thinking about you singing that song because it's so powerful, bro. Like, like those
Yeah.
feelings.
I was just trying. I was just trying to do it right. I was trying to make Chino proud. in a sense. I never really even talked to him about it. I just told him there was other songs that I really wanted to cover. But like we never really, to this day, we never really talked about it like that. Like it was always just like I just asked him if he liked it. He said it was good, and that's all that matters. Like if you said anything else other than good, or if you said it was all right, I probably wouldn't be here anymore. But like I think he knew I think he knew that like if you said anything other than that, I was probably gonna be like a freaking dramatic crybaby.
Like your dog just died, just
yeah. But no, he fucks with it, and everybody fucks with it, and I love that. I love that people like it. I love that it's like, you know, it's a top 10 for a lot of people too that I talk to, friends, people that I randomly. Actually, yesterday, a kid from TikTok, I was in a live, someone's live on TikTok, and he came in. He's like, "Dude, I love Bad Rabbit's Sextape. That cover's amazing," and it gets dipped, and I'm like, "All right, thanks, man."
That's
so it's like,
tight.
we always get that love. We always get that love.
It's crazy because that song in particular, I think at the time, like our energy as a band, we just had a chip on our shoulder as well too, because like we were kind of getting put into a box to an extent of like Black people must be R&B, must be this, and like I can't remember if we had done Warped Tour at that point or hadn't done it, or the timeline. I can't remember exactly what the catalyst was, but I do remember just feeling this like association that we were trying to get on tours, and like we just nobody really knew what to do with us in that regard. And having a song like Sextape was kind of like the I don't think articulate. It was kind of like a gateway
Like a
drug
gateway.
into like
Yeah.
gateway drug to like us being accepted in the rock world. Because if we came out and did 7 words, people would have been like, "Yo, that's corny, get him out of here." There was no like it was us doing a heavy Deftones song just wouldn't have been it would have probably been good, but I don't think it would have had the same effect or people to just pass over it and kind of approach it with a different lens. But us doing like the sex tape joint for the people who already knew about the band, it made sense and kind of gave them like accessibility to understanding where the heavier side of our band came in. Like it's like the Deftones meets Prince. Like I don't see the connection. What does that actually mean? And then for people who were like, well, there's this R&B band that keeps playing with Every Time I Die or getting referenced in this, you know, heavy scene, but they're like 90s R&B. I don't understand how this makes sense. So I think it was kind of like intentional to kind of bridge the gap in the scope that was you had to do a little bit of thinking in terms of why the association made sense, but also we tried to make it undeniable that, well, even if you don't know the song, like we still body that shit, or we tried to like make it our own because that song is so simple and delicate that if you OD on it and do too much, then people would be like, "Yo, you fucked that song up. Like, what are you doing?" Right. So we like did just enough to make it not just like a straight playthrough, but kept the song what it was, tuned down to like the actual tuning of the record, and just added our little flavor to it. It's like kind of what we were talking about before, like our approach was to literally stay out of the way and not fuck that song up, but also do it justice to give people, because at the time, like there was crossover at that point. It was like not as like now everybody's just doing covers and playthroughs all day, but at the time, if you did a whack cover, you would get flamed on the internet. Like it was not a good look to do a whack cover, put that shit out. So we had to do it justice, and we were kind of nervous that people would be like, "Yo, this is either gonna." There was one comment, I'm not gonna say what it was, but it was so OD.
Nah.
Was it a racist comment?
Nah, it was wild racist.
It was just 2 words, and it was not tight. It was like, damn, somebody was mad, but it was the comments are more good than bad. But I think to the point of it was done with intent. I think to kind of, like I said, we just had a chip on our shoulder that people just didn't understand what the band was all about, and it kind of think gave people the context to understand where we came from without doing, like I said, like bored or, you know, something that would have been, I guess, cliche, like a Digital Bath. We could have done that. We could have done so many other songs that would have been like, you know, the cliche job, but that one was like, yo, we're actually musicians. We can play this and do it right.
Yeah, I think that's an R&B record.
100%.
You know, it's obviously Deftones are a rock band, but like Sextape is R&B. I feel like that song is super rooted in R&B music, and yeah, so that's why I felt like it was easy for us, especially with Dua's voice. Like the sultriness of it was like it just came through.
And dog, you think my voice is sultry?
It is, man.
Hell yeah,
it is, dog. It's.
like
I mean,
that.
come on.
I like that. Yeah,
So damn, what do you got his shirt off and everything?
Take
Look
the shirt
at
off, dog.
Yo, do it. Take your shirt
Right.
off.
Man,
Oh,
listen, y'all want to see these titties?
Jiggling, baby, you got it.
All right, so let's go around the room here and then find out. I want to know either your favorite Deftones album or song. Let's start with you, Dua. Dua, do you know your favorite Deftones album and or song?
Around the Fur is my favorite album, but my favorite Deftones song. Oh, dude, there's so many, bro. Hole in the Earth.
Word.
Yeah, that's
Saturday
it.
Night Riff.
It made me like when I first heard it, I cried, and it just I don't know, it just always touched me,
Wow.
and it just keeps like I can hear his voice every time I hear that song. I can hear the melody. I can feel like there's something there emotionally for me that like I don't know. It gets attached. I guess attached myself to that song. But yeah,
Did you like that whole album when it came out?
not as much as I like Around the Fur.
Yeah. No, same. And its renaissance recently has been very it's been really cool. It's been very intriguing the way that especially like I don't know, Gen Z or the TikTok whatever generation has seemed to be like really fallen and attracted straight to Saturday Night Wrist. So it's always curious to me to find out like what people like where they connect. And when did you get into Deftones, Dua? When do you remember?
High school.
So yeah, so like Around the Fur.
First album. It goes.
Oh, really?
Adrenaline.
The two first album. Yeah. Around the Fur. Adrenaline was the first my introduction to Deftones, but Around the Fur was the album that got me into them. But the two albums that I first ever owned, two first albums was Around the Fur and Radiohead Pablo Honey. Those are the two albums that I owned before. Yeah, I know. Random, but those are the two albums that those are the two first albums in my first ever record collection.
That's amazing. Like
no, it's weird, right?
My first two were not that cool. My first two were like Crisscross and Color Me Bad. Like that shit was
hell yeah.
Yeah, this is fire. Damn.
They are fire.
Oh no, like I listened to that stuff.
Crisscross
Like,
first album was incredible.
My parents didn't let me keep or own like rap or hip hop records because of the parental advisory. Yeah. But there wasn't parental advisory on those albums.
Right.
So, like, and that was it for me.
I got my mom to buy me I convinced her to like just allow me to buy a Too Short record, and then she was like, oh, let's put it in and see what she bought. And she pulled it out of the tape deck and threw it out the window on the highway. She was like, nope. I think it was Cocktails is the one. Anyways. All right. So Salim, what is your favorite Deftones record and or song and or album?
I would say White Pony for sure, and then fucking Knife Party. I think is like, because that song, because just the bridge in that song and the groove, the way it actually like kicks in. I could floating forever. That shit was like, because at the time, like that record at the time, they just sonically there was no record that sounded anything like that, and it's kind of like. You could tell that they were just kind of ahead of their time. Not necessarily ahead of their time, but like we're going to set the trails. Like you kind of have to make a crossroads at that point because Around the Fur and all the things are kind of getting lumped into all. How do you compete with all the other stuff that's out there at the time? And when White Pony came out, it was like, what the fuck is this? Because there wasn't a ton of synths. There was like, I guess anything that had like synthy type of stuff or a DJ in it was like Incubus and like just dudes cutting over it. It was like this version of them essentially just exploring. It felt like it was just like an evolution of like the perfect evolution from the previous record to be like, okay, where do you go from here? Because essentially Around the Fur at that point was an incredible record, but sonically it just was like this whole different like landscape of where they did. And I think Knife Party in particular, I think every song on that record was incredible. And Knife Parties with the hook and trying to figure, is that his voice or who's singing? Where's that screaming coming from? And just that extended bridge and the groove behind it as well too. And just it just left so much space. And I don't know, I just remember hearing that for the first time, like, what the fuck is this? I've never heard anything like this. And then the rest of the record was just, I mean, there's Korea, there's Passenger, there's, I mean, even just the first single, like Change, when that first came out, it was like, what the fuck? It was just like, you could tell that they were in the pocket. And I think they found that again, I think with Diamond Eyes, where it's like that same, like, powerful, undeniable, like, oh, you like the Deftones? And it was just like, you didn't have to be like a diehard fan to be like, oh yeah, that new Deftones record is great.
Yeah. Yeah. That I often think about it like this one feels like it has the most pop songs, like Diamond Eyes, I mean. Because so many of them just seem it's such an efficient album. Like there's no fat on that. It's just and to the song. Forget about what I think. Sheel, what is your favorite album and or song from Deftones?
I'd say song is probably Lotion off Around the Fur.
Sick.
I think that song is just like so vicious, but also like so stylistically melodic. And then the drums, the pocket, and just sort of like the swag and the staggering of like the kick drums and the snare on like the choruses or post choruses. I always felt like that was so unique in heavy music. Um, and yeah, I know Chino screaming that is so vicious, but also his singing voice is like so pretty in that song. Um, and it's just like the guitars are like thick and driving and like just kind of yeah, I'll pause. But yeah,
It is what it
it's
is.
just yeah, it is what it is. But yeah, I'd say that's my favorite song. And then album, it's really tough between White Pony and Diamond Eyes. I feel like White Pony really was a moment in as a fan that I was like, oh shit, they're really exploring melody more, and just like simpler song structure, I guess. And then like obviously Abe's drum parts on that album are absolutely legendary. But I would say like I would choose Diamond Eyes as my favorite album as a whole because at the time it came out, I feel like I had sort of like I don't know. It's just like it's not that I lost excitement on Deftones, but I feel like there wasn't an album that had spoken to me like that did at the time. And I think the way it came out with Diamond Eyes as a single, it was just like I don't know, it just drew me in. So I think that I would say Diamond Eyes is my favorite album, and then Ocean's my favorite song.
It's very thick and driving.
Yeah.
And veiny for some reason. I don't understand. No. So the way I like to conclude
Yeah.
every podcast is with a request for recommendations, and this is based on something that Chino said once on a podcast that the only reason that he used to tweet out links to songs that he likes, like that was his exclusive contribution to the internet, was like because he thought that was the coolest thing he could share, was just links to music to put people on. So in that spirit, would each of you gentlemen give me one thing, one recommendation? And it certainly doesn't have to be limited to music. It can be. I know I'm putting you on the spot, but and it could be anything at all. People have suggested meditation. People have suggested, brushing your teeth. Like it could be anything across the board. A book you like, a podcast, anything in the world. Whoever's ready with the first one can shout it out. What you got, Dua?
Read the Quran.
Read the Quran. I love that. All right.
I'm not asking you to become Muslim or anything like that. Just read it.
That's what's up. Awesome. That's terrific.
I would say just wash your ass with soap. That's a good look. Make sure you get in there. Make sure you stay clean your ass with soap.
Ass cheeks.
Yeah, make sure you wash. Make sure you
separate and cleanse.
Yep. Yeah, damn. Okay, what he said. Make sure you really clean your ass with soap. And I think for me, it would probably be like a musical recommendation. This artist Dijon is fucking crushing. Probably one of my favorite artists in the last probably 5-10 years. I would say he has this YouTube video. It's kind of like it's called Big Mike's, and it's just the raw emotion of like just seeing somebody that just like is just channels all of his energy into his music. She'll sent me the link to this video and I was like, yo, what the fuck was that? That's some shit that I haven't seen in a very, very long time.
How do you spell that?
Yeah. Like the mustard.
Like the mustard? Word? Okay. Tight.
Can I give you a music recommendation?
Of course, please.
Listen to Black Milk's album, his most recent album, Everybody Good.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Awesome.
He's a hip hop producer, a student of Dilla in a sense.
I'm with that 100%. All right. And Sheel?
So I'll do a musical recommendation. I've been listening to, so one of my favorite albums of all time, it's the album that I'm going to mention, is called Sacred Chants of Shiva. It's like it's sort of like a meditative album. It's droney, but it's got incredible, beautiful, melodic, classical Indian singing. And I feel like, especially now in a time of turmoil where like you really can't, like there's just so many things out of our control, like in a worldview perspective. It's just, I feel like that's really slowed life down for me, listening to that album, calming my thoughts down, just like seeing like videos of like babies getting obliterated out through my screen on my phone has just been like an insane experience as a human being. Like, and I can't even imagine what it's like to be in sort of like a war-torn place. But this album is always going to be like a staple of my life because of how like it makes me feel now and keeps me calm and sort of like makes me feel grateful for the life that I have. So yeah, that album, Sacred Chants of Shiva, that's my recommendation.
Gentlemen, this has been tremendous. I've had so much fun. Thank you so much for making this happen. Congratulations on the album. I love it. Like you guys really did. With the songs on this album, they're just so uplifting and like it just feels.
Thank you.
It feels good. It feels good to listen to your album. So I'm stoked to support it and to support you guys, and respectfully, because I want to make sure that I pronounce your names correctly when I put out the episodes. Would you all say your last names for me just so I can make sure that I don't fuck them up?
I'm gonna go with mine because mine's the most damn difficult.
Yeah.
Boakye. So Boakye. You just say it fast.
Boakye.
Right
Perfect.
there. Boakye.
All right. Cool. Boakye. And Salim, how do you pronounce your last name, sir?
Mine is kind of hard to pronounce, so do you have a pen? You can just write it down.
Sure. You're gonna fuck with me, aren't you? He's fucking with me.
Damn, dog.
Oh man. Damn.
Sorry.
Oh, man.
Sheel fucked you. He fucked you up.
I really wanted you to do it.
He just pulled the ass cheeks open and cleansed the butthole. He just did it. He just fucked you all the way up.
I wish I could have kept a straight face. Damn. Usually that like because I want to see how much letters you get in because I usually just spell just N-I-G-G and then usually you get to eat before somebody's like
I fucking love you guys, dog. This
I couldn't resist. I was like, I'm gonna go for it, but I couldn't keep a straight face. I'm out of practice.
Oh my god.
It's sorry. The last name is Akram. It's like it's kind of hard to spell because you got a pen. You might want to write it down.
Oh man. If that happened, bro. This should have been.
I love that. I'm putting that in the podcast. I'm putting that shit in the podcast.
Oh man!
Usually, I've had some people get all the way through it. They're like, "What?" I'm like, "Damn, you ain't shit, man. Damn."
No, when I tell you we've seen him do this.
Oh, fucked up, bro. I searched for literally minutes trying to make sure that I could get on YouTube. I'm gonna get these guys' names right, y'all. Fuck with me. That's tight. Mad respect. Yeah. I love it. I have nothing but respect.
That's an easy win. That's a layup, man. I can't. That's like leaving a bag of money on the ground. Do that.
Salim Akram, Dua Boakye. and Sheel Dave. Bad Rabbits, a fantastic band and really, really, really cool men. I appreciate you guys. Sorry it took me forever to get this podcast out. Go check out their album, Garden of Eden. Check out Stick Up Kids, American Love, American Nightmare, Mimi. Check out the Waves Collide EP, which does include a cover of 1979 by the Smashing Pumpkins and Sextape by Deftones. My name is Woody. You can find me on LinkedIn if you're hiring. I'm also on Instagram and Twitter at Woodbruh, WOODBRUH. If you want to talk about my favorite band, hit me up. Thank you for listening to Deftones. And thank you for listening to Change in the House of Pods.